The desert night was cruel. The stars burned cold in the endless black, and the coyotes cried like lost children in the distance. My horse had bolted hours earlier, spooked by a rattler, leaving me stumbling through the thornbrush with bleeding hands and cracked lips. I was sure I would die out there, swallowed by the wilderness that cared nothing for me. That was when I saw him. A shadow rose out of the scrubland, tall and broad, carrying a rifle slung across his shoulder. His hat brim cut his eyes into shadow, but I could feel the weight of his gaze even from 10 paces away. "You'll burn up by dawn if you keep wandering," he said, his voice as deep as a canyon. I wanted to cry, but all I could do was whisper, "Help me." He didn't smile, didn't soften, just nodded once and offered his canteen. Water slid down my throat like fire, reviving me, though my legs still buckled. He caught me before I fell. His arms were strong, steady, like iron forged by the sun. His name was Colt, a man who lived alone, far from towns, saloons, and the law. He didn't speak much, and when he did, it was in short sentences that revealed nothing of his heart. He took me to his cabin, a rough-hewn thing of pine logs perched above a canyon where the river whispered. For days I lay on his bed, feverish, my skin burning with sun sickness. He fed me broth, cooled my brow with damp cloths, and sat silently by the fire at night while I dreamed fevered dreams of dying. When I woke whole again, the first thing I saw was him at the table, carving a piece of wood into something shapeless. His hair was dark, wild, his jaw unshaven, his eyes the color of storm clouds. "You should leave when you're strong enough," he said without looking at me. I swallowed hard. "Why?" "Because I've got nothing to give." The days stretched into weeks. I tried to repay him, cooking what little he had, tending the garden, mending his shirts with trembling fingers. But Colt kept his distance. He was a wall of silence, a man who had buried his wants deep in the earth. But the wilds around us didn't let me forget. Wolves prowled at the edge of the woods. One night, a bear crashed near the cabin, hungry and roaring. Colt had driven it away with nothing but fire and grit. And through it all he kept me safe. And still he wanted nothing. Or so he told himself. I began to notice the small things. How his gaze lingered when I brushed my hair. How his hands tightened when I leaned too close to the fire. How he left his door unlatched at night, though he had lived years bolted shut. I began to ache for him, not just for his strength, but for the quiet storm of loneliness I saw in him. One evening, while the sun bled red across the canyon, I stood in the doorway and said, "Colt, I can't keep pretending you don't want me." His jaw tightened. His hand trembled on the rifle he was cleaning. "You don't know what I've done, what I am." "Then show me," I whispered. "Let me choose if I stay." The dam broke. He pulled me to him, his lips crashing against mine like thunder rolling over the plains. His hands were rough, desperate, as though he'd been starving and only now allowed himself a taste. That night, the cabin walls shook with the force of what we unleashed. I gave him everything, my body, my fear, my need, and in return he gave me the truth of his hunger, the fire he had caged for too long. When dawn broke, the wilds outside were quiet, and for the first time so was he. I lay against his chest, listening to the steady beat of his heart. "I didn't save you for this," he murmured. "I know," I said softly. "You saved me because it's who you are. But last night, you saved yourself too." He was silent, but his arm tightened around me. The weeks turned into months. I no longer spoke of leaving, and he no longer spoke of sending me away. The wild still roared around us, but we faced them together now. his rifle my steady hand, the bond we forged in fire and need. One night, under a sky alive with stars, I told him the truth. I thought I'd die out here, Colt. I thought the wilds would take me. But instead they gave me you. His eyes softened at last, and he bent his head, pressing his lips against my hair. And I thought I'd live and die alone, he said. But you gave me back something I didn't even know I'd lost. The wilderness was still cruel, still untamed. But with him it felt less like a death sentence and more like a home. And in his arms I knew. He had wanted nothing until I gave him everything. And now, he would never let me go. The fire crackled low in the hearth, shadows dancing across the log walls. Outside, the night winds carried the cry of an owl, the scent of pine and sagebrush drifting through the cracks. I lay against Colt's chest, his heartbeat steady. His arm wrapped firmly around me as though he feared I might vanish with the dawn. For a long time, neither of us spoke. Silence had always been his armor, but tonight it felt different. Soft instead of sharp, full instead of empty. Finally, he whispered, "You don't understand what you've done to me." I tilted my head up, my fingers tracing the line of his jaw. "Then tell me." He drew a ragged breath. "I built this cabin to keep the world out. To keep myself from wanting what I thought I couldn't have. Then you came crashing into my life. Wild, broken, bleeding. And you gave me more than water or fire ever did. You gave me reason." My throat tightened. I pressed my lips to his chest, hearing the tremor in his voice. "And you gave me life, Colt. You saved me from the wilds, but more than that. You saved me from myself." His hand came up, rough palm cradling my face, and his storm-gray eyes burned like embers. "Then stay. Not because you owe me. Not because you're afraid. Stay because you want to." Tears pricked my eyes, but I smiled through them, the truth fierce in my heart. "I'm not going anywhere." The wilds could roar, the storms could rage, the world could turn against us. But in that moment, with his lips finding mine under the hush of night, I knew we had carved a sanctuary no wilderness could break. And for the first time in years, Colt smiled. Not the sharp smile of a guarded man, but the rare, unshaken smile of a man who had finally found where he belonged. "With me."